The documentary you're about to view has never before been seen. It took four brilliant West African literature students several years of searching in the darkest, deepest, and dustiest areas to uncover this priceless archival footage on none other than the father himself, Ousmane Sembene.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Go Feminism. Today's segment is Men, They're Not So Bad. Today's guest is Ousmane Sembene, the father of African cinema. We're also here to promote his new film Zala, which came out this week. So, keep in mind. Mr. Sembene, can you enlighten the audience and myself a bit about your childhood? Just a little.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Yes, that happens to the best of us.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. You're looking lovely today.
Thank you, Mr. Sembene.
Lovely. I had a childhood not that different from most of us in Senegal. My father was a fisherman. I had seasickness. I was not about to follow in my father's footsteps. I was expelled from school at an early age, so my formal education was somewhat limited. But I was also drafted to the African Army in 1944, which drastically and quickly ended my childhood.
I bet it would. Yes. So, thank you for that insight there. I know you've had a few occupations throughout your life before you became a director. Could you expand on that?
Yes. I believe firmly in apprendre de l'école de la vie, or learning in the school of life. This is why when I came to France after the war, I read a lot and self-educated myself. I became very socially minded, and I looked for jobs and activities that could encourage my social mindedness. I worked in the trade unions. I protested the Korean War and the First Vietnam War, with which French Indochina fought for their independence. I was also a member of the Communist Party, which helped me further my socially minded goals.
Great, that's amazing. You've done a lot in your life. And I know pretty much after that you became a novelist, and you have a lot of novels. I've read a few. But my question is, what made you turn from being a novelist to a director in the cinema?
I believe art has to be cultural representation. African art needs to relate to the freedom and revival of African societies. I saw it as my duty to write about this freedom and to make it a symbolic form of cultural representation. This is necessary in order to teach others.
Awesome.
I turned to film because I found that my written works were only being read back in Senegal by the cultural elites and not easily accessible to others. Film did this.
Yes, it did. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Ousmane. Sorry. More about your films. Pretty much the reason why I asked you to come on my show was because of your high focus on women in your films. You go feminism. I love your films and what you've done lately, and I just want to know why you choose to have such a high focus of women in your film. when a lot of others don't nowadays?
It is because a lot of others don't that I needed to. I saw these strong Senegalese women, and I needed to make them seen, because they were not seen. And I had the potential to do that, and I did.
Great, great. You talk about a lot of issues that a lot of people are scared to, that like Zala or Mulade, which you may be creating in the future, maybe. But it's just, I just thank you from the whole female community on what you've done with your films, and you've given us a voice when we're sometimes too scared to voice.
I've spent much of my life, as I pointed out, giving voices to some of those who do not have them. And this is especially true in Senegal, when most of the population does not have these voices.
So thank you. Next topic is your new film Zala, which just came out this week. Could you share a bit about Zala without giving it too much away?
Zala is about a politician, a member of the government, who, through somewhat illegitimate means, acquires a third wife. But he is unable to consummate with his new beautiful third wife. This is not just a story it appears to do. As art needs to have symbolic representation, so too does this story. A symbolic representation that the people of Senegal will be very familiar with.
Awesome, thank you. So, we have a clip from Zala, actually, that Mr. Sembene has been nice enough to supply. Can you tell us a little quick thing about the clip?
Well, this movie is a little funny, and I believe this clip will help highlight that.
Awesome. Roll film.
bu guddee ba ngay seeti soxna si danga koy ŋànk nga raaw raam laa la wax yum o bala ma ñaatu
Why? 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 Why?
Alright, I actually have a surprise for you. A couple of days ago, I interviewed a famous film critic who had got a special screening of Zala. So let's see what she had to say, shall we? Hi everyone, I'm with Mrs. Yada Yada from the Senegalese Film Quarterly magazine, which is compelling stuff. She's just going to give us a brief overview of her thoughts after watching Zala just a few minutes ago. So if she would put down this amazing book.
Oh, sorry. Yes, this book is amazing.
So, can you tell us about Zala?
Zala is an extremely well done and amazing film. It takes place in the 1960s after Senegal gets its independence from France. And it's extremely interesting to see how the society is after they get their independence. For example, you still see the product placement being used. You see Evian bottles. You see cars. You also, it's really interesting to see that the Senegalese society hasn't really broken off from the French culture, and they speak in French, so that was really interesting. I also like the issues that it draws on in the movie, such as the issues of polygamy. For example, El Hadji, the protagonist in the film, has 3 wives. He just married his 3rd wife right at the beginning of the film. And you can see the opinions expressed. For example, El Hadji's daughter from his 1st wife is against polygamy and is constantly angry at him for having a 3rd wife and even a 2nd wife. It's also very inspiring to see a man like that, a man that's so high in society, get brought down so much, because the Zala is actually a curse that a beggar put on him so that he can't get hard for his 3rd wife, and that is extremely degrading to him. And El Hadji goes through all these different spells, and he goes to all these different people to try to see if he can get erect, but obviously the curse cannot be broken unless at the very end of the movie the beggars come and they spit on him, and that's what gets rid of the curse. So it's an extremely powerful scene. It's interesting to watch. At times it was a little bit difficult to understand, just like the culture and its context, but you get a fair grasp on it later on once you kind of see it all come together at the end and why it's happening. So I do recommend the movie. I think it's extremely well done. I think the issues in it are well pointed out, and I recommend anybody to go see it, especially if you're into African cinema.
Well, there you have it, folks. Zala. Yeah, thanks, Mrs. Yada Yada. Back to you, Phil.